So, hello everybody. Good brunch because it's not morning, it's not lunch yet. So hopefully you have a nice day today. Uh, After that, talking a little bit about power, we continue with empowerment. So the topic that I will present is women's empowerment through active participation in Abrahamic religions. So why this topic will kind of bridging three fields of studies, which are the empowerment that has been discussed by community psychology, women by feminists, and religious studies. So these three fields of studies has been talking about women and empowerment. So, but how they will talk about the active participation on those, with those three levels of women, empowerment, and religion will be discussed in this topic. So why did I choose this topic? Why Abrahamic religions? These three religions have the same root that have the same root of teachings, and the first revelators was very positive, had very positive view of women, but later on the theologians are imposing a patriarchic hegemony. And there are studies that shows that men in these three religions play the roles of authority and prestige in most religious organizations. And also languages that used in these three Abrahamic religions were kind of describing patriarchal leadership, power, and even the divine is distorted by patriarchal domination. In these three religions, women are often not allowed, and even probably it is written that women are not allowed to become main leaders in religious rituals, and they are not participate fully in the interpretation of the teachings, in the constructions of the teachings, and also the key rituals in these religions. Paradoxically, there are more women are participating in religious service, and women consistently demonstrate a greater affinity for religion than men. There are data of many studies that show that fact. So women also report higher level of personal religiousness and more frequent use of religion in coping. So isn't that, how can women who's being marginalized in that religions still having more religiousness than the man? Some reasons why there are some experts that say women's greater religious participation is due to and related to lower status in the society, in the workforce, and they have more time to attend religious services because they are not working, and it's connected to their overall role of participation in the social order. And Hindu also analogized the lower status and power of women to the religion of the oppressed. So women turn into religion because they had nothing else to turn to when they are being marginalized and dispowered. So it brings me to the questions: how can women reach empowerment by participating within the Abrahamic religions? So how can they do that? The thesis is, even though there is patriarchal hegemony in Abrahamic religions, women's active participation in these religions will empower them. So you are about to enter the empowerment zone. Okay, let's discuss about the definition of empowerment. The empowerment is divided in so many different ways. In those three studies on women define empower differently than religion, and community psychology define it differently. From all the studies on empowerment, I collected some definition, but I came to this definition that's very comprehensive in explaining empowerment. Perkins and Zimmerman divide empowerment that it is more than the traditional psychological construct with which it is sometimes confusedly, confused. Is it self-esteem? Is it self-efficacy? Is it competency? Or is it locus of control? What is empowerment? Perkins and Zimmerman, it's more than just that. It's more complex, and it's more includes so many things. Rappaport, in many studies, divide empowerment into construct and process. So we sometimes define empowerment as a construct that we measure, and also it's sometimes the process of someone, from powerless into powerful in a way. So Zimmerman construct 3 levels of analysis of empowerment, which is individual, organizational level, and community level. So these 3 levels of empowerment, we should see that in these 3 levels. Moreover, the individual level, which is psychological empowerment, is sometimes are not researched rigorously, not thoroughly researched on. Mostly in women studies or religious studies, empowerment is just how much they have, how many women have jobs, or how many women attend school or something like that, or how many women has access to economy. That's the only thing they research on. But the most important is psychological level of empowerment, which is individual level. So what is psychological empowerment, which is, I will say it's PE. There are 3 constructs that builds the psychological empowerment, which is intrapersonal, interactional, and behavioral. In each construct, we have several sub construct, which is intrapersonal. It is domain-specific perceived control and self-efficacy, motivation to control, perceived competence, and mastery. So how inside the individual she or he will feel that. In the interactional level, it's how someone connects and see others in a organization. So there should be critical awareness, understanding causal agents, what are the things in the resource in the society that she has, skill development, skill transfer across domains, so how she can transfer all her skills into so many areas in her life, and also resources mobilization, how much she can mobilize the resources that she has. On behavioral construct, there are community involvement, organizational participation, and coping behaviors. So how it is manifest in behavioral level. So next we will discuss with that definition of PE, psychological empowerment, we will discuss some other things that has been done and has been researched on. First is how is the gender differences in psychological empowerment. Is there any differences between man and woman in PE? The second is how women participation in community connected to psychological empowerment. And last, we will discuss how women and religion and empowerment are being researched before. So, on studies on gender differences in empowerment, I found 2 studies specifically examine the gender differences. The first done by Zaki and York, and the second is by Peterson. The thesis on the first one is relationship among community participation, personal empowerment, and gender. The second study examined the role of gender in the relationship between social cohesion and the intrapersonal and interactional components of PE. So this one done in Israel, that one in America, Iowa. So So the results showed that there is significant plan in a way that when gender is in interaction with participation, it will have significant effect to empowerment. So women perceive formal status as less important. For example, if woman is not the main leader, it's okay for women. As informal leader behind the scene, it's just empowering as man in front for women. So it's kind of different between man and woman perceived from leadership status. And women have a different way of achieving empowerment. So how they can achieve empowerment, it's kind of different than men. In Peterson, he found out that there is significant interaction among community participation, gender, and sense of community. So these 2 studies were developed in a quantitative and very rigorous measurement and statistical methods. So there is a potential vital difference between women and men in way they may achieve intrapersonal through active participation. So overall, women and men have different patterns of community participation and psychological empowerment. That's what been found out in gender differences in empowerment. The second branch of study that we will discuss is women participation in community. I took also 2 studies that's very good. Itzhaki and Grabe did different studies on how the participation of these women can lead to psychological empowerment. So Itzhaki did it in Israel again, but this one is kind of focusing on women and how they achieve empowerment. Grabe did it in Nicaragua with 2 groups of women. One group is landowners, and the second group is not landowners. So kind of different status in economic level. So there are many variables that has been measured in these studies, but the results show that significant correlation between participation and personal and community control, policy control, and leadership competence. So it suggests that participation in community increases women's empowerment and sense of belonging to the community. Grabe concluded that access to resources in the environment may serve as catalyst for empowerment. So having the land will make women have more psychological empowerment. Empowering women requires a contextual gender understanding of power in different dimensions, for example, for structural factors and gender ideology. So Grabe saw how gender ideology in that culture also affects the psychological empowerment. So it is important to know that this gender ideology will kind of affecting the psychological empowerment. of women. So, the overall conclusion on this is women's psychology empowerment can be achieved through community participation and access to resources. So if women have active participation in community and have access to resources, they will be easily get empowered. So also in this matter, we have to find some, I found some interesting theories that there's a new paradigm of power for women. The term power wills, not power over, is more suitable for women. So women have become powerful if they are including in community. So if they are participating in community, they will feel more powerful. As in power over, which is mostly men feel empowered by that, is to power others, to subjugate, to manipulate or to control others. That's what we usually think about power. So, but power with, which is more suitable with women, is creating change, to collaborating with others, cooperative action with others, capacity to get a job done in collaboration with partners and friends for mutual benefit and the common good. So that's what women usually use power in community participation. So now we discuss about women, religion, and empowerment. We had conclusion that gender ideology will affect the participation and psychological empowerment. How is gender ideology in these religions, affecting women? So, Bergman, in religious psychology studies, said that religion is more likely to be accessed in coping when it is more available in the community and is accessible to the individual. Religious coping is more common among blacks, poor people, the elderly, women, and those who are more troubled. That the people who have less access to secular resources empower in their culture. So women are more likely to find coping in religion. Okay. So we have to also to see the feminist studies on women and religion. There are two groups or two views that feminist has. One is the one who's reformist, which is within the religion, try to reform it, and the other one is outside the religion and try to to do reconstruction of the religion. This topic might kind of more suitable or more aligned to the reformist vision, which is inside the religion and reform the woman and the ideology. So in Abrahamic religions, that's Orthodox Jews, nuns in Christian and Muslim. So in Judaism, all use fails. So in Judaism, women who live within Jewish life consider themselves to be living within a world structured and ordered by God's will. In Christianity, liberating potential and possibility to reform within some forms of Christianity, if they still do that, even if they recognize the patriarchy of the ideology. And in Islam, there are a long story of women that's very empowered and women learning and do some rulings and also become in so many levels of community participation. So rebuilding and enlargement of these notions could actually empower, become a new power of women. So two studies that has been done on this is from Ozarok and from White. Ozarok did that to explore the paradox of how women are more religious than men, even though it is patriarchy. And White did it in Bangladesh, and she tried to find out how Islam empower women. These two studies are qualitative studies. The first one is just kind of much better because have more participants, design very nice thematic analysis and try to find how they decide to stay in the religion, whether even though they realize the patriarchic aspect of it. And the second is just more political woman study style, where and she only interviewed two women who were the leaders in their community. So the result showed that most of the participants did perceive inequality in the religion, but they still cope with it by cognitive restructuring. And women were willing to cope with inequality in part because it is peripheral to their faith experience. So the practice is not, their level of religiousness is more individual level, a personal level, which is they doesn't really care about the peripheral things on the ideology. In Bangladesh, it showed that there's diversity in the broader political perspective, experience, and social location. So we have to realize that before we do anything on women empowerment and religion. So participants reported become empowered by their religious services. So these are women who go around, do religious service to other people. So the conclusion of woman empowerment through participation in religion, there's one in Jewish culture. Traditional Jewish women interpret their stand as individual women as safer and more secure than that of secular women. So these studies give overall view on how women empower themselves through participation in religion. Women's empowerment can be experienced through active participation in religions. So the transpersonal aspect of it, that women's psychological empowerment through active participation in the religion is related to both community and cosmic ultimates. So religious community serves as a context for transpersonal experience in which empowerment can be embodied through religious experiences. Schaff suggested that women spiritual leaders have a combination of grace and power that can lead to transformative change. Marie have talked about grace. Zach already talked about empower, so I combine both. So women can play a very significant role in social transformation, even through religion. So the findings of this topic is there are evidences that participation in community is highly correlated with psychological empowerment. And women have different patterns of empowerment and participation in community than men, compared to men. Empirical evidences show that active involvement in religion of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam enhance women's empowerment. So there are gaps in literatures. Big gap. Research only using qualitative methods with interview and did not state clearly what definition of empowerment that was used, and none of them using psychological empowerment as their working definition. And there's no integrated research that bridges between community psychology, women's studies, and religions. So in the future, hopefully we can bridge this all. For future research, there should be more research on this topic with comprehensive understanding of the construct, which we can get from community psychology, and use it for women's studies and religious studies. And transpersonal psychology will be the best container for that and become the best bridge between empowerment research, especially on themes that also integrate cosmic and religious experience. Thank you. Be empowered. It's us 3 years from now. Any questions?
Yeah, I actually have a question. Great presentation, by the way.
Okay.
I was just wondering, it seems like this topic would be like a lot of literature. I saw some studies were done in Bangladesh and stuff, but considering it's so broad in terms of like the Abrahamic religions, which is like more than half religions in the world, and also like psychological empowerment, which is again very culture specific. So I'm just wondering, like, all of these studies are like mainly done by a Western perspective, or is it like a few of them? Like, I'm just kind of wondering how broadly applicable what's out there is right now.
Okay. Some studies in Israel, Nicaragua, and America, and probably some studies on Asia were not, I cannot really retrieve. There are studies in French and Germany, but in French and Germany, which is I cannot read. So there are, I'm sure in Indonesia we have also, but it's in Indonesia, the journal will be in Indonesia. So it's not easy to get the whole picture of this. But psychological empowerment, Zimmerman suggests that if we do something that any research on psychological empowerment should be grounded to the culture that we will research on. So how it is, how is the gender ideology there? What kind of psychological empowerment that's happening there, and how they perceive that? It's gonna have to be tailor-made to suit each culture. So yeah, it's kind of broad in Abrahamic religion, which is so many people here, so many population of Abrahamic religions. Probably in the future, there should be different studies on different religions that should be done specifically, but after that we can see the more true picture of this woman's empowerment and religion. So yeah, so each research with psychological empowerment, they usually tailor-made the measurement to the specific culture. So yeah, even though he mentioned the construct, but how it is measured is really tailor-made.
But then, as you said, it's not really possible to tap into all those because they're in different languages, maybe. So
yeah,
this picture will always kind of remain.
Yeah. I hope they translated all of them in Indonesia, not in English. Any other question?
Yeah, I'm interested in the following. As much as I know about Judaism, the modern Judaism has different movements,
yes,
and there are different directions.
Yeah.
European differ a little bit from Americans, but principally there are certain directions like Hasidic Judaism or Orthodox Judaism, like Reform Judaism.
Yeah, Reform Judaism.
And it is very clear that the role of women in each movement is different in participation, and the effect of the belief system within that is different.
Gender ideology will be different. Yeah.
In Reform, we see here in the United States women rabbis.
Yeah.
So I'm interested, what the situation in Islam, for that matter?
Oh, okay. You're asking for Islam. So in my paper, I also noticed that there are Orthodox Judaism, Reform Judaism, and that kind of thing, and how it is different on view on gender ideology. But I did not put it there. But yeah, I realized that. And in Islam, I think it's in all religion there are different interpretation of the readings, or on the scripts that held differently in different culture. So it just came up to me, probably if someone did do any research on that, should mention the bias of that culture and how the gender ideology in that culture is represented. So in Islam, yeah, they have they are very using burqa, with veil, or they're not not wearing any veil, or even just as the same as the Western. There's so many different gender ideology, and also there are reformists and reconstructivists in each religion.
Okay.
So that's why I stated my bias. This is the reformist standpoint, not reconstructivist. So it's kind of from within, with how using the scripts and using the most used interpretation of the religion can be used to empower women.
So is it possible, just a simple question, is it possible for within the Islam for a woman to be a mullah?
Mullah, no. But see, the mullah, no. But they usually in Islam, women has separate organization where women become leaders of that organization of women. So in Indonesia, we have kind of two big groups, and Muhammadiyah. In each, they have women organization within them, who's moving in for women. So that's kind of common in Islamic organization. So women, become empowered in that organization. So as I mentioned about the gender differences in empowerment, women doesn't need to become mullah to feel empowered. They doesn't need that to feel the empowerment. So it is different view of different experience of empowerment that women are having. That's not necessarily needs to become the main leader to become empowered. So it's kind of more personal level of empowerment.
So it's more from the social side rather than from the religious side. That's what I'm gathering. The participation of women and feel for the empowerment comes from the more social side than from the religious side.
Yeah, but
like leadership, social leadership, and then the religious leadership.
It's kind of like in the religion. How can I say? Religion is one kind of community with specific gender ideology. So how can the social participation in this specific gender ideology can empower women? With that constraints, with that, that mitigate women from it. It's kind of how can women have that? It's kind of probably harder to do it in religion than do it in other community participation. Yeah.
So I invite you to answer your own question, just your opinion and your thoughts based on what you've looked at so far.
Yeah.
How can women become empowered in systems that don't externally empower them?
Okay, so as I mentioned that the first revelators of those three religions are actually have very positive view on women and gender ideology. So how can it be done? Probably should go back. How did the revelators did it? How they did in the reformist standpoint, how they did it, how they did it that have positive view of women. That should be researched on and being done in organizations, religious organizations. So, and also that women has different way of having the power, and that power with, which is kind of probably it's not against. It's kind of have to realize how these women having it. So, in my personal perspective, it's read more about the religion scripts and how the first revelators did it. Actually, it really inspired me in a way that that happened there, back then. But now it's not happening because the theologians, kind of mess it up. So how women find out about that first things that they had, so it's kind of more empowering for women to know about that. And also, it's different experience than men. Yeah.
So it sounds like somewhat analogous to the consciousness raising, feminist consciousness
Yeah.
raising modality.
Yeah. So yeah, it's that's true feminist view that. Okay, is that okay? Thank you. Father, thank you.
Thank you.